Islam Makhachev is the greatest MMA fighter of all time, let alone being the GOAT of the lightweight division, let alone being better than Khabib. He is the greatest MMA fighter of all time. If he beats Ian Garry, it's solidified. You have to call this man the GOAT. Fuck John Jones, steroid abusing woman beater. Fuck GSP with 2 good wins on his record. Fuck Demetrius Johnson. You can't even name a single fucking title defense of his. This GOAT nostalgia bias, ranking guys from the past higher than guys of today, needs to stop. It needs to end. And Islam Makhachev is going in there and he's doing the impossible. He's doing the impossible. He's defending the second belt in one of the most competitive weight classes in the UFC. He's gone from the most competitive weight class in the UFC, the lightweight division, to the second most competitive weight class in the UFC, the welterweight division. And quite frankly, it's phenomenal that he's going to go and do this. Khabib has 3 good wins. You know, it was his father's shows, yeah? Khabib might have the undefeated record, right? But Islam's gone in there and he's gone in there against legends. He's beaten Charles Oliveira when Charles Oliveira was in his winning streak. He's beaten Volkanovski full camp, moving up when Islam himself was dehydrated. He knocked him out in the rematch. Short notice, fair enough. You might not want to count that. Beat up on Moicano, short notice, fair enough, but still incredibly impressive to sub him in 1 round. Who does that to Moicano? Moicano was in a training camp. It's not as if Moicano was off the couch. Moicano was in a training camp for a fight against Beneil Dariush. It's not as if this guy was out of shape when he fought Islam. He fought, this is Islam we're talking about here, Dustin Poirier, incredibly impressive win when you see what Poirier's gone on to do in his career and had done in his career and how he shut down BSD right after that fight. There are guys in this game and there are guys in this sport that Islam has beaten that surpass that of Khabib Nurmagomedov. Khabib could have got more legacy wins if he had stayed around. I think he could have been extremely successful in the lightweight division. And do I think he could have moved up to welterweight and beaten a guy like Kamaru Usman? Maybe. But he never did. Islam is. And fuck this comparison between him and Khabib, quite frankly. He's better than Khabib. He's higher on the GOAT list than Khabib. And I believe he's the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. I'm not an Islam glazer. I really am not an Islam glazer, but I think truthfully, he is higher on the GOAT list than John Jones, than Demetrius Johnson, because you have to count these wins as more than just the sheer number of title defenses. When you talk about a GOAT debate, it constantly comes down to quality or quantity. And you look at the guys in the past, they had 1, 2, 3 wins in the UFC and they were fighting for a belt. Islam had to go on a 10-fight win streak. He had to beat 10 guys in the UFC to get a title shot. And people still complained about him getting the title shot then. They were saying, oh, he shouldn't have got it. He got it off beating Bobby Green and Dan Hooker. First of all, Bobby Green as a contender and Dan Hooker as a contender are good wins. Dan Hooker going life and death with Dustin Poirier. Bobby Green still being the man at this age. And this was a prime Bobby Green, a closer to his prime Bobby Green that Islam fought and dismantled. Fair enough, short notice. You can talk all the shit you want. You can discredit Islam's reign all you want. He has some great wins. And he had to fight 10 times before he got the title shot. When you look at guys of the past like Anderson Silva, like Demetrius Johnson, the reason they were able to get their title shot so quickly was because the divisions themselves were so shallow. And to get a title shot meant you really only needed 1 or 2 good wins. And you were looking at that belt. Not only were the divisions shallow, but they were also not stacked whatsoever. There was no one in them that really posed a threat, a legitimate threat towards these guys. And they were just a level above the entire time. And that's why they've had so many title defenses. But you look at Khabib and you look at Islam, if you compare the two, Khabib's fighting plumbers and he's fighting bum dossers on the way up. Islam's fighting legends. Islam fighting future prospects, future contenders, racking up incredible wins. He hasn't got the undefeated record. He was chinned by Adrian Martinez or whatever years ago, early in his career, not even close to his prime. And somehow that discredits the legendary wins that he's had. Khabib has 3 good wins on a good day, and they're all stylistic matchups which are favorable towards him. Islam's fought an absolute killer's row. He's moved up, and if he beats Ian Machado Gary this weekend. I think he solidifies GOAT status. I think we need to stop talking about guys of the past, with such glaze and with such fucking, we just want to suck these guys' dicks, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, these guys are good. I'm talking about the guys of the past. I'm talking about Khabib, GSP, Jones. They're good, but they're getting title shots off of inferior competition. They're defending the belt against inferior competition. And people who say, I know the Khabib GOAT thing has kind of died down in the past, as much as has kind of died down from, how much it was talked about in the past. But it's still there and it's still prevalent. I still see people say all the time that Islam's not Khabib. Islam will never be Khabib. Nah, he's not. He's better. He's better, and he's better than all these guys. Islam surpasses Jones because you can't count Jones. He failed a drug test. You can't count Silva. He failed a drug test. And even if you want to say Islam popped for a heart medication that they gave him after a surgery or a murmur that he had going on, and he was cleared, and USADA apologized to him. He's a clean athlete. Whatever you want to say about the UFC and how many fighters are using versus how many fighters are not, I think a fair chunk of them really are. We know that the Khabib camp has been, in hot water about steroids in the past, but I would say Islam's a clean athlete because he was never suspended, and when he did pop, it was explained, and it was explained better than fucking picograms, bro. Picograms is bullshit. Like, Jones was clearly juiced out of his fucking mind in those Daniel Cormier fights, and probably the rest of his career. I think Jones, if you don't count the steroids, is the only guy that has a stand, an argument against Islam as the greatest of all time. I think Islam is already there. Just the quality of wins, the win over Poirier and the win over Volkanovski and Charles Oliveira, those 3 wins alone are better than some of Jones's, because better than like 6 of Jones's title defenses. You're telling me you're almost losing to Reyes, you arguably lose to Reyes, you're almost losing to fucking Thiago Santos, you're almost losing to you're taking Anthony Smith to a decision, not almost losing, but you're taking Anthony Smith of all people, Mr. Curl up into a fucking armadillo and cry on the canvas like a bitch to a decision. You're not finishing that guy. Like, seriously, you're looking at Islam's reign. It's dominant, it's impressive, it's mostly finishes. People shit on him for the JDM fight, but a majority of Islam's career has been filled with impressive finishes and dominant victories over legends. People glaze Ilya for the run of Volk, Max, and Charles. I would argue Volk doesn't really count because Volk fucking got knocked out 4 months ago by the very man we're talking about right now, Islam. Max Holloway was coming down a weight class after getting dropped by one of the hardest hitting 155 pounders and bulking up. It was a brutal weight cut, and he was doing extremely well against Ilya at that point. And then Charles Oliveira is aging and out of his prime, and Islam did him in more impressively, in my opinion. Fair enough, it didn't take him as long, but he submitted this bloke. He outstruck him on the feet, and then he submitted the submission specialist. I think Islam's career and his reign is much more impressive, and it's about time we start having that conversation about this guy as the greatest of all time. I think Islam is the GOAT of the sport, and I think he's a good GOAT of the sport. Him and GSP and DJ, but realistically, like, you can't rank him below those guys because you look at the wins of Islam's career and you look at the wins of GSP and Demetrius. You can't even name a Demetrius Johnson title defense. You can't. Who, like Kyoji Horiguchi? It's probably one of his only good ones. Henry Cejudo. Didn't he lose to Cejudo? I mean, Islam's the greatest of all time, and we need to start having this conversation. Khabib isn't even close. Khabib isn't even top 10. Islam is one of the greatest, and if he beats Ian Machado Gary this weekend, I think it's solidified. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Islam's the greatest. Islam's the greatest. It might pain a lot of people to admit because they're not fans of this guy, but he really is, and he's exciting. He's good. He's got some legendary wins under his belt, and if he goes and does it against, it's going to be incredible if he gets it done against Ian, because Ian's a future champ in my opinion. He truly is. Like and subscribe. I'll see you boys in the next one. Much love. I'm going to be doing breakdowns closer to the fight. I'll do a proper full card breakdown and proper full card reaction. This is going to be crazy. It's not the most stacked card. But the main event and maybe the co-main event are pretty fucking decent. So I'll see you boys then. Like and subscribe. Peace.